sees the memes of production, and the like and subscribe button. The reason the number going down is bad for the economy is because of instability. It's because there is a mismatched set of expectations between business leaders, job creators, whatever, people who are responsible for making economic decisions, transactions, negotiating, whatever, entire nations, you know? There's a mismatch between what they expect and what's actually happening. Things spiking up, that doesn't take away from that, you know? You finding that half-smoked cigarette butt in the piss-soaked alleyway does not mean that you're not an alcoholic. His trade rep learned about the pause during a hearing. Really?
Conversations with you include that in your opening statement. Why didn't you reference that as part of your testimony?
Wait, at what point? Well, it's a 3-minute video.
My conversation. What does this even mean? Policy. Another member of the cabinet, Bessent, who just was no strategy. Action array of people's retirement this fall. How have you done? How have you achieved it? So if it's not marked to the floor, does it?
Yep, there goes my attention span. Wasn't the 90-day tariff thing a fake tweet? Yeah, but then it happened for real. Life imitates art, or whatever. I learned a lot, don't we all? Well, that's nice, Skynet. All right, hold on. Let me send this off to the editors. We got a lot to talk about. What the hell do I title this one, man? Trump backed down, but also raised China tariffs. No one knows. Lol, Lamau even. Honestly, yeah. Stolen. What else am I supposed to, I don't know. Wacky Wednesday. The tariff pause situation is crazy. Oh, you know the YouTube game. You know the YouTube game. Thanks, Brandon. Hell is this? New York City lets immigration officials open an office at Rikers Jail, a priority for Trump. Thanks, Eric Adams. Can't wait for Cuomo to be in charge. Is Iran for mayor? Yeah, I wish. I doubt it's gonna happen, but I wish. Imagine if Trump had Cuomo arrested to keep Adams in power by default. That's not how that works. Not even remotely. Like, that's a shocking lack of awareness of how elections work. Also, why would he? Cuomo and Adams are basically on the same foot. Iran has a lot of momentum. I mean, have you seen the polling? It's not good. NYC mayor polling. This is from March 26. Cuomo has nearly 40%. Is Zoran legit? Yeah. Did you hear about the person who was similar standing to Jeremy Powell, but isn't the Fed chair, got removed by Trump, showing he could remove Jeremy Powell if he wants to? That'd be a lot easier for me to Google if you gave me the motherfucker's name. Yeah, Trump definitely wants to lower Fed interest rates, though I have no idea if he's going to be successful in bullying Powell to do so, or removing Powell to make sure that happens. I have no idea. Did you guys see the panic on the Treasury yields the other day? It was all over Twitter, and that's how I learned about it. I spent like 4 hours doing research on it because I didn't really understand it, and now I think I understand it well enough to talk about it, but I did learn all of this, like, 12 hours ago. Yield go up equal bad? I mean, essentially, yeah. It looks like it's stabilized a little bit, at least with regard to the 10-year auction, so maybe things are going to hold for a little while longer. But we also have no idea how long that's going to be the case. It might also be influenced by the fact that people are still, like, trying to make this market bullish. Didn't China dump a bunch of their bonds? We don't know that. It's been speculated, but we don't know that. We don't know who makes those sells. It could be China dumping bonds. It could be hedge funds dumping bonds. It could be other countries. It could not even be that. It could just be a reflection of significant market instability and people not being like, or a lack of trust in the US government. Could be all of it. Didn't Trump float the idea he just wouldn't pay China's bonds? Yes, and if that happened, it would basically be the end of the world. So, you know. What does the 30-year look like? Well, it's still up. Wait, I could be dumb, but isn't dumping bonds good? I mean, depends on whether you want the United States to collapse or not. It depends on whether or not you want to, like, spike our interest rates, basically. Is the world ending a good or a bad thing? I'm not sure. And yes, I did see that Germany is considering removing a bunch of gold reserves from the New York Federal Reserve, which is kind of in the same vein of issue, right? Like a lack of faith in the stability of the US government. All countries have gold reserves, Ismilia. At least the wealthy ones. 4.4 is still pretty high. But I guess we can expect this to go down a little bit because people are buying into the market right now, trying to buy the dip. I'm not sure. A lot are held in New York because it makes trade easier. Yeah, we have the biggest market. It just makes it a little easier. Isn't bond number going up bad? The bond yield going up means that the government is selling these bonds at a higher yield rate and for lower amounts, which they're doing in response to a lower demand for people buying those bonds. And a lower demand for people buying those bonds does happen from time to time. But it's weird for that to happen at the same time there's a big market sell-off. Because usually, when people are selling off in the market, they're turning towards a more stable long-term investment. Bonds, right? You got to put your money somewhere. It's not like they're dumping hundreds of billions of dollars into a big savings account, you know? They put it somewhere. So when the market goes down, generally, the people take the money out of the market and they move it into bonds. That makes bonds more expensive, and it brings the yield, the rate of interest on them, down lower because there's higher demand. So the government doesn't have to offer a higher yield. Now, pretty much the entire global interest rate is based on the US 10-year Treasury yield. And the reason for that is because this is kind of like, since we're the global reserve currency, this is kind of like the baseline price of borrowing money. Like, the cost of borrowing money is more or less set by the amount you expect to make off of holding debt of the US government. Like, that's the, if you're trying to, like, it's like you have molecules, and then you have atoms, and then you have quarks. You're getting down to the more, like, fundamental building blocks of reality. One of the fundamental building blocks of the global economy is this, the Treasury yield. And the reason for that is because since we're the big dogs in town, and we're the ones you have to go through to do business, at least through our currency, the cost of holding US debt is more or less like the determining force in what the floor for interest rates can be, which is why the Treasury, you know, determines that floor. Or not the Treasury, sorry, the Fed determines that floor in a fashion which correlates highly to the 10-year yield. So the point of all of this being, if people are pulling out of the market and people are pulling out of bonds, it signals a lot of instability. Could also be a consequence of people doing mass bond sell-offs, in which case they sell their bonds, the US government has to give them their money. Now the US government has more debt because people just turned in their bonds, so they need to go and sell more for a higher yield to compensate for the fact that they just lost so many. China holds, like, what is it, like 700 billion in US bonds. Japan holds $1 trillion. There's like 50 trillion in total. Like, there's a lot of US debt held all around the place. You get like a bond version of a bank run. We hold like upwards of 60% of our debt, right? Hold on. Who holds US Treasury? Yeah, thereabouts, it seems. How much US debt is held in America? About 29 trillion held by the public and 7 trillion held by government accounts, intergovernmental debt. But how much in Americans? That's a lot of debt. I believe there's a law that limits foreign debt to 30%. Yeah, but, like, keep in mind, Trump did declare war on the entire world economically. If all of those countries called their called that debt immediately, if they all did it at once, that would kind of be, good night, y'all. Good night. If I recall correctly, they can't do that. I think there are limits on, like, how much of the debt can be called at once, but even if you don't exceed those limits, you could still do a huge amount of damage to the United States. What's stopping China from doing it? Well, it's kind of a nuclear option. Also, China does generally benefit from holding U.S. Debt. They'd be calling it all in at once if they did that. People have speculated that they're doing it, but I don't think we know that. Also, keep in mind, again, the US dollar is the global reserve currency. If the Treasury yields go up, the interest rates everywhere go up. Everywhere. So every economy gets hit like that. What if they did it slowly? Well, I guess they could. It's a weapon they have. Remember how many times I've said that running a country's budget is not like running a household budget, because having debt can be a good thing if you're a country? Because if other countries hold debt in your country, it means that they're invested in the long-term security and stability of your country, because any instability to your currency causes instability to them as well. This is what I mean. Of course, that doesn't really work when you're, like, declaring war in the world, so, you know. Why are stocks up? Rewind the stream. Got a lot of debt, man. This is another big concern here. The higher the interest rate goes, when our debt gets refinanced, when we sell new bonds in new bond auctions, we pay a higher interest on those bonds. Like, that's the point of it. right? If the higher yield, you're essentially paying a higher interest. The more of a profitable investment holding U.S. bonds is, that means they're paying a higher interest. The government's paying a higher interest. It was going down for so long. Well, yeah, the Fed has been doing a pretty... Can we give a little credit where it's due? The Fed has been doing a pretty amazing job limiting the consequences of the insane amount of debt that we hold. Like, we have like the fact that the interest that we pay on our debt nationally has gone down so for such a long time, and has only really gone up in response to post-COVID inflation and the war in Ukraine, the big ones. Good Fed posting is when you glaze the Fed. True. But that era is over. Who the f knows what's going to happen now? Maybe we get stagflation. I don't know. If Trump fires Powell, does the world end? Well, it wouldn't be good for the world. View Trump's tweets. What did he do? Is there anything new? No, there's nothing new. It's the same as before. 5 hours ago, that buy has to be illegal. Oh, crimes don't exist anymore. Don't be stupid. Hold on. A relevant video has been linked.
Well, thanks very much for that. You know, this is the question. Will China hit back at Trump's tariffs by pulling, as what one guest in the morning told us, the nuclear option? That is, selling US treasuries, US bonds, basically. According to many, it's the most powerful weapon in China's arsenal. I mean, it's not new. Every time there are these tensions, back in 2018 also, I remember, this was put out there. Will China dump its holdings of US bonds? You know, so let's just quickly take a look at this, right? Will China retaliate by selling US bonds or not? Not just with words, or counter tariffs, but real pain in the bond market. Now, a move like this could serve as a powerful financial market deterrent, much like weakening of the yuan's daily fixing. I mean, the last fix, I mean, not today's, but yesterday's fix showed that China is willing to tolerate lower yuan to increase the competitiveness for its goods.